Hey guys, this is Anna here with Passions of Paper. Today, instead of showing you guys a journal, I am going to be showing a tutorial on how I sew my signatures into my covers. I know that this is a very tricky process for most, if not all, people out there. And it's something that I struggled with for a very long time. But I feel like I have finally gotten to the point now where I've got it down to a system, and that makes it faster and easier and pretty much 100% accurate every time. Every time I do my signatures, they're always straight, and it always gives me enough space with my covers. They're not sticking out too much, they're not sticking out too little. So I'm going to show you guys that today, and hopefully that will be helpful to someone out there. So I have already made my cover, and I've already built up my signatures. As you can see here, I've got 5 signatures that I'll be sewing in. What I use, I learned from YouTube videos a long time ago to use a piece of paper as your guideline. And so basically I cut a piece of paper out to the height of my cover, because I like my pages to go from the bottom to the top. I don't like the journal coming way above the pages. I like the grungy, I like these parts here being right at that top. So I do cut the piece of paper to that full length, and then decide how much space you need for your and by the way, this is like the best trick for a flexible soft cover journal. Hardcovers are different because they have that specified spine, so they're actually a lot easier probably to sew in the signatures because you already have an exact spine size. With a soft cover, this is literally just a rectangle, a flat rectangle. So the way that I figure out where this piece of paper needs to go and how big this piece of paper needs to be is I measure the whole entire thing. I already did this in advance just to save a lot of time of inching this piece of paper around for quite a while. My cover is 15.5 inches long. So I usually like the front and back covers to be anywhere between 6 inches to 6.5 inches. If it's under 6 inches, you might have a lot of pages sticking out, and I don't really like that. I like the cover to be just a little bit bigger than the pages, or sometimes even more than that. Like in this case, I'm going to go up to a 1/2 inch bigger because that will give. I use a lot of pages. So that will give this journal, the covers, room to expand as this journal gets filled up with stuff. Because the cover, this is hard to explain, I'm sorry. The cover will come down a little bit as the journal expands. So I do make it just a little bit longer in the beginning because of that. So in this case, I'm going 6.5 inches in to start my paper. And from here, it's just a little bit less than 6.5 actually. So it's just a little bit less than 6.5 here to just a little over on this side, because this is going to be 2.75 inches for my spine. I'm just doing that just because this was a pamphlet, or not pamphlet, this was a piece of paper guide that I already had made. I keep all the ones that I make in here. This is my stash, all the different sizes. I like to write down what size they are and everything, so I can just go through when I need one, see if I've already got one made up that I can just use, and there it is. So but they're not too hard to make. Basically, you just decide the size that you need first. You cut out that piece of paper. Then you figure out how many signatures need to fit onto this piece of paper. And then you do equal measurements. I always fold the paper in half, hot dog style, and that gives you your middle. Well, that only works if you're doing odd number of signatures, which I always do odd number of signatures. So that gives me your middle. And then I split up the rest of the space into 2 there and 2 here. And then I also take the top part here and I'll fold that down. Let me just show you guys on one not being used. So I fold it here, and this gives me my middle automatically. And I put a dot, well, and then I also fold it this way. That gives you your exact center, and I put a dot there. And then from that point, I fold this down about 1 inch, and then I fold this down to match, so those are perfectly even. That gives you your top point and bottom point. This is for 3-hole pamphlet stitch. That's what I've always done, is 3-hole pamphlet stitch, and it holds up just fine for all the journals that I make and all the journals I've used, so I don't ever bother changing it up. Then I just measure out however many more holes need to go into these spaces here, and I usually end up making that last hole right on the edge, because my cover measurements include the curvature of that signature. I provide the space for the curve of this signature ahead of time, so I don't bother making the paper extra big just to have a hole on the inside. I'm probably confusing the crap out of you guys, and I apologize. There are a lot of videos, a lot of tutorial videos on YouTube that explain all that way better. My main focus was not for that. It's for what you do next. So what I do once this piece of paper is made up, I measure the bottom and find where the center is and clip this on to the cover. Then you go to the top, find where the center is, then clip this to the top. And make sure that you eyeball it and that it looks pretty straight, because sometimes fabric covers can be a little wonky and a little long on one side up here and a little long down here. So yeah, I always eyeball it to make sure it looks straight after those measurements. And then, because it's clipped in, it's not going to move. And next, I'm going to poke my holes through, and every time I've done it this way, it always comes out straight. So the tools that I use for this next step is just a cutting board. I don't like working with a big cutting board down here. So I've got one on the other side. I have an L desk. The other side of my L desk has the cutting board where I do a lot of my cutting. But for this little step, I just like to use this little board to protect my desk. I have the styrofoam thing. It's kind of spongy. This was a bunch, four individual pieces. It was like a sheet, and I cut it down and glued them together to make it nice and thick. This came in some packaging, just packaging material. So I didn't pay anything for that, and I just stick that under my first row here. None of the rest of this matters. I'm just poking holes through the first hole, through the first row here. You'll want, hopefully you already have an awl. This is, like I said, guys, this video is not actually teaching you how to sew your signatures. This is just teaching my technique to hopefully help you make this easier and more accurate. So I'm not going to be teaching like all the different little things. So all I do is I line that up in the hole. Well, this was a pen mark before, but I'm reusing it so they're holes now. And then I just push straight down till I hit the board and come back out. And I go through all of those, keeping my hands on the paper to make sure that the awl doesn't move it around. Alright, now those are done. I move this over so the foam is underneath the next set. and just go through and poke those holes. And then the top set. I used to do this without the board underneath, and then I realized it's putting little black dots in a straight line on my work center, and didn't realize that the awl was actually marking up my desk. So that's a little bit sad, but not too big of a deal. It is a craft desk. Alright, we no longer need this. That was just for that step, and also now those are all poked, we can take off the clips and free the paper. Do not get rid of the paper. This is very much needed for the rest of the steps. But as you can see there, we've got the holes. We're not going to be able to see them through this part, but on this part I go inside, through, and out, so I don't need to see them in the middle, so that's okay. But you can see the rest of the holes clearly there. Alright, so this part is done. We don't need the cover at the moment. Now we want our first signature, and this is what I like to use to keep my signature all together. I have taken a lot of time to perfectly line up all my papers so they are at all these different heights in this signature. So I need to make sure that they do not move when I'm doing this. And I also make very, very thick signatures. This is 21 pages. So, or 21 pieces of paper, which is actually times 4, that's 84 pages. So 21 pieces of paper in here is very thick, and it's very hard to sew through. So I want to make sure that I've got it fully strapped. The way I do that is I pinch the folds together to make sure all these pages are as close together as they possibly can be. And then, so I do it on the bottom. Well, I do it all together first, and then I focus on the bottom part while I'm clipping, and then I just clip that over all the pages. Grab that again, and clip the other side. Now I go to the top, and I pinch that in, and clip over the top. I like these long ones because of all my paper layering. Shorter clips don't hold all the pages in. And I like to go 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top, because this holds everything so perfectly securely that the holes that I'm going to make next never get moved around during the whole entire process. That used to cause so much extra time sewing my signatures in, having my pages get moved around, because I used to just like clip here and clip here, and that just didn't work very well. So, you know you've got it nice and tight when it doesn't want to close all the way. That's perfect. I have enough of those clips. Those are just hair clips that I bought on Amazon. It came in a set of 12. So I've got enough of those clips to go ahead and do 3 signatures. I'll go ahead and do that now. And I apologize for being all over the place in my tutorial. This is only my 3rd time doing one, and I haven't done one in like a year. So I'm not very good at these. So that one's nice and tight. It's not wanting to close. Perfect. And one more. Pinch both sides. Got my fingers on either side of it to help hold that in, and my thumbs in the middle. One more pinch, and hold the bottom. if you guys want, I can put the link for these hair clips in the description box. All right, pinch the top. Okay, 3 of those signatures are now clipped together. We're just going to set these other 2 aside for now. As we sew in these signatures, that'll free up the clips and let us do those other signatures. So, starting with the very first signature, we're going to take this guide and fold it in half, just like you did when you made it. Now the trick to this is, okay, so when I lined it up on here, I don't care how tall my cover is, if the paper doesn't go all the way to the top, always line it up at the very bottom of your journal. So this is a paper bag journal. I'm feeling where the paper bag stops because that's the support and that's where it's going to sit when it's standing up. I put this to the edge of that paper bag, and then going from there up to here is the first hole. So I want my pages to also sit exactly at that point where the paper bag is, so that way the front cover, or the cover, will stand up with the pages. I've got my pages nice and flat on the bottom. So when you put this paper inside, make sure, I don't care how tall the papers are up here, I don't care if this goes way over your papers, this bottom is where you need to line it up perfectly. Because if you want your journal to stand and you want all your signatures to be sewn in perfectly straight and even all the way across, you always line up the bottom. So I'm going to be sitting to do this. I won't be able to watch the camera. I'm really hoping you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm going to be poking the awl through here. However, in order to do that, you have to keep the pages kind of closed like this to make the awl go straight out the fold of the paper. So it is going right here. I'm going to hold it there and fold the paper down and just kind of grip it and push. I'm pushing the awl with my thumb and push it straight through until about halfway. I don't really care for the hole to get too big. And as you can see with the awl, it starts out very tiny and it gets bigger and bigger. So I go about halfway, maybe a little less than halfway. So make sure this paper has not moved. Go to the next hole, get the awl set up, kind of like you're about to give it a shot, and push it through. Making sure you're grabbing those pages to hold them all together. And now the next hole. Alright, that one's ready to go in, but I'm going to do that for these other 2 that are already clipped, so they're just ready to go. So I got my paper lined up at the bottom, got my awl set up, and squeeze. I think the paper might have moved, so I'm going to put my awl in there. Yep, that's right where it needs to be. That's how I check. I stick it back in there if I think that the paper moved, and that's how I realign the paper. Okay, one more. All right, we can set that aside for now, and we're ready for the next step, putting the 2 pieces together. I use wax thread. I have a whole bunch of colors available, but dark brown is my favorite. Now what you want to do here is you have to decide how long you want your threads to be. Do you want to add beads and charms and have it dangling down, or do you want it to be nice and short, tucked inside the pages? I generally just do 3 lengths of the paper. So 1, 2, 3. That gives me enough dangle down that I have the option to add beads and charms and stuff if I would like. And I need my scissors. So you could do a little shorter if you don't care to have anything hanging down, probably like at 2.5 lengths of your signature height. Now that I've got this, I just get the rest of them cut for all the signatures. So I line up the 2 pieces and I unravel until that ends and cut and make them match. Now I am going to do something different that you guys have probably never seen anyone do. I came up with this method all on my own. You guys know my journals, you know how I love my tassels. And well, in a soft cover, you can't clip a tassel on. It'll just bend and flex and not look good. So after I do 4, oops, I'm sorry guys, that was not good. After I do 4 of these, the 5th one is going to be a little bit different. Hopefully I have enough. I'm running out. So the 5th one is going to actually be 4 lengths. 1, 2, 3, 4. This will, this one will not only be different length, but it'll also get sewn in differently. So I'm going to set that aside. This is reserved for the middle signature. Alright, so now that we've got those all cut, I'm going to take one, and I've got these, this came in my bookbinding kit, so they're just bookbinding needles, I guess, and I always use the largest one. And we are ready to begin. Gotta get those ties out of the way. I've accidentally sewn through my ties, so I'm extra careful about that now. So starting out, we go through the middle, pull it through, and I'm going to keep pulling until the thread is about this long. And then just make sure that when you are pulling it through, out here, that you got to feel for it. You pull, and once there's resistance, stop pulling, or else you might just pull your thread all the way through. And then I go back up to the top. If you can see that hole there, hopefully you can see it. I can see it clearly, so the camera might just not pick it up very well. And once I've got it halfway in, I just stop there, come back to see what I'm doing on the inside, pull through until there's resistance. I pulled a little too much, so I was just readjusting that. Find the hole in the signature and pop that straight in. I like the big needle the most because it doesn't hurt too much if I accidentally stab myself, which, trust me, I accidentally stab myself a lot doing this. So pull all the way and go through the bottom. And out that hole. And then the trickiest part of all this, I'm going to have to sit down for this part, so hopefully you guys will all be able to see, and hopefully my head does not get in the way. we do have to go through the middle. So I find where that hole is, where it's coming out, and go back through, but try not to go through the thread itself, which somehow I almost always manage to do at least once for every journal. And it's okay if it makes its own new little hole. In a way, that's kind of good because I know for sure it didn't go through this thread and screw me up. But it's still close enough that it's not going to affect anything. And then go through this hole. Using a big needle also helps ensure that it's not going to go through the thread. Every time I use a small needle, I do it twice as often. Now you're going to want a thread on each side of this middle string here. And I just turn this sideways. Actually, go ahead and unclip the pages at this point. Free them up. So that way when you tighten, everything tightens naturally and doesn't restrain against the clips. I always try to make sure that my pieces are about the same length. One's a little longer than the other, so I'm just adjusting. There we go. So those are about pretty close to the same length. They don't need to be exact. Now I tighten it as tight as it can go. And then I found that when it's super tight, these don't want to close very well. And so I take this, you can see, you might not be able to see actually, how tight that is. That is flesh against the cover there. You can't see, you basically can't even see anything. So I move this a little bit to give it just a little bit of wiggle. Only a little bit, you don't want a lot. So now you can maybe see the thread there just a little bit. And I'll give it just a little more because it does tighten as I tie it. It's going to get tighter. So now I'm ready to tie, and I just do a double knot. And let it hang down. And now that's in. So as you can see, it did get tighter. It doesn't move very much now. Just a little wiggle, and it helps a lot with the signature staying closed, or, you know, not like popping open. Alright, so we're going to do that again for this next signature, and then the third one will be different. So you go through the middle, pull it through. I'm going to go ahead and go faster now. If you guys need close and slower steps, just rewatch the first step, because I don't want this video to take forever. So that is going through. There's resistance. And now we go up and through. Through the signature. And then down through the bottom. Back into the middle. And back into the pages. All right, we take off the clips. Make one thread go under on each side. Pull tight. Basically, you want to make sure this isn't going to be loose out here. Right there. And then, now that we know that it's not loose on the outside, grab the signature and jostle it a little. Then tie. Alright, so this is where things get a little bit different. And in order to make this easier for me, I'm going to clip these pages down. I just clip the first signature to the cover with 2 clips. Since my signatures are so chunky, they like to get in the way. And then here I just go into that page of the first signature and clip in the second signature. Now, this one we're going to use the extra long thread if you want a tassel. If you don't care for a tassel in your soft cover, don't worry about this step. Just continue doing step 1. The steps from the first signature. So for this one, we're going to start on the outside going in at the top. Basically, we're doing this one backwards. And we're going to leave enough length to kind of go to the bottom there. I'm getting hung up on a page. Even though I told you that pretty much never happens. Somehow this has gotten pretty gappy. So I need to pull those in. I'm going to recheck that. Okay, so there's my hole. If you ever get hung up getting your needle in from the outside of your signature, just put your awl through the inside, and that helps realign the pages. I think I just pulled too far. Okay, that's right where I want that. Then we go through the middle. Try to make sure your thread is not hung up on these clips. Happens to me all the time, so I've gotten really used to just checking before I start pulling the needle through. Then I go through the bottom. And back out the middle. I have to look closely to make sure I'm not going through that thread that's already there, so I'm sorry for having my head in the way if it was. Okay, so now we can start pulling things tight and lining up the Now, here's what I do. As you can see, we've got strings coming out of 2 different holes. This next part you got to be very tight and accurate with. Make it as tight as possible. There's no looseness to this signature or else things aren't going to stay. Now I test the length first. I hold this top one straight out and I take the middle one and wrap it over and then have it go down and then hold those there and let the top one lay down. I've got quite a size difference there, so I'm going to try to even those up a little. I'm starting to wonder if I did get a thread inside of a thread. I think I did. So if that happens, if you're not able to tighten things up somewhere, that's because you've got a thread inside of a thread probably. So you gotta look around, find where that mistake is at. I think I see it right here. Yep. That's such a tiny little piece. I'm just gonna cut that off. Normally you'd have to undo it, undo the last part and re-sew through the hole. Alright, so now this will pull through. It's not stuck in the middle of this one anymore. Or actually this one was stuck in the middle of the other one. Now I'm going to check the size again, the length. That's pretty close. I think I'll just do a little more. Okay, those are the lengths good enough. I'm going to pull these as tight as I can now. And what I'm going to do now is tie these at the top hole. The first knot's the trickiest. You're not really going to be tying as tight as possible. You're just kind of getting as close to that hole as possible. Let's see if this might help you guys see better. So I'm just tying as close to that top hole as possible. I don't want any sagging in this knot. So you do want it tight, but also as close to that hole as possible. You don't want to be tying it down here or anything. Now try not to loosen that up and make your next knot. And now you can pull as tight as you want. And that's going to be stuck there. Now, I'm just going to show you guys real quick with a journal I already finished why I do this. And let's put you back out. Okay. That is where I'm able to use these strings and tie whatever I want. I can do a big fluffy tassel and tie the strings around it. And so you go around the full length, and then you go around, actually I just go around the full length in the middle, and then it falls down in half. And this time around I'm doing these little things. I just made my own, I don't even know, I don't know what you call that, like a tag type of thing. And I added beads and a little bottle and some charms and stuff. So that's able to hang almost to the top as if you were clipping your tassel on. So that's the way I've been doing my journals lately, and I really like the result, and it stays. It works really, really well. You can see why you want that so tight. If this was loose, this could, if it was looser like these, see how these have a little give? This knot could slide down. It can move around by the binding itself, just scooting around, turning, rotating inside of it. So yeah, you just want that to be real tight if you're going to be putting a tassel on there. Because if I did a clip here on this flexible bag, it would pull it down like this, and it just doesn't look good. That's the best method I have found for adding a tassel to a soft cover. Because like normally, if I basically, what people normally do if they want the strings to come to the outside, they always come to the outside, but in the middle. And then it's like the height is right here going down, and you've got nothing up here, and I don't like that. So that's why I've come up with my own way to sew this signature in, to put it at the top. Alright, now if you guys remember, we needed those clips for the last two signatures. And now we have them. I think I forgot to mention also, before you, like the first thing I do, especially if the signature looks like it's extra loose, I just hold a hand here and put my fingers in here, and I push against them. I push my hands against themselves. That's the first way I tuck it in. And then I do the corner thing. Let's see here. Here's my string. And we just need to make the holes now. So remember, line this up. This was my last signature, so I'm getting that out of the way. This one was my fourth one. And go through the middle there. Get that out of the way. See? This is what I was warning about. It likes to get hung up on these little clips. So if you feel a lot of resistance and you know you've got a lot more cord or string left, that's probably what's going on. My holes in the fabric moves constantly, so the holes sometimes go away, but the bag still has the holes So I am feeling around for that hole right now. I'm usually pretty good about not messing with the fabric too much when I'm doing this, but I don't know, I guess maybe because I'm doing a tutorial, I'm trying to show everything the right way, it's just getting messed with a little more. I didn't realize I hit the wrong button there, so you guys are really far away. And back through that middle hole. What I'm doing here, I've got my hand on the inside of the signature feeling when I'm pushing this needle through, because sometimes I can feel when the string gets caught on the needle, and if you guys can see, it went right through that string there. So I always keep my hand there to feel so I can stop it before I push the needle all the way through and have to undo stuff. There's lots of just little tiny things that are involved in doing this, and it's just one of those things that's like you're gonna get a feel for it and realize things as you do it. And of course, you might have your own problems or your own better ways of handling things. This is just my way, and this process is tricky for people, so I was just hoping I could help. Oh, you know what? I think I went through the string twice. Wow. Is that what happened here? I've got the fibers from my braid out here going through the hole, and that's making it really hard to see. I gotta get these fibers out of there. There we go. Maybe it's just the fibers congesting it. Nope. I do think. Yeah. Did I really do that again? Wow. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I did. Alright, so now I've got to pull that one back out. Let me make sure I'm pulling out the right one. It was this one. I can't believe I did that like a third time now. So I went through the thread here. I think I'm gonna have to pull that back out here and start that over, which I wish I had realized before I took the clips off. So I'm just gonna hold this up out of the way as I push this through, and now it shouldn't have gone through it. Okay, so that's why it was stuck. Oh yay, that went through even without the clips lining it up, so that worked out. Close enough. And let's loosen it up a bit. And tie. All right, now we are down to just one more. We're almost there. Oh my goodness. I am not doing good with my camera zoom today, am I? So now I don't even know what you guys have missed. Although all I've done is just repeating that first signature. So hopefully you guys, I'm sorry, I'm not good at tutorials and I've been all over the place. I just hope I'm able to help at least one person out there. That would make this all worth it. Doing this used to take me a couple of hours, and now it takes me less than an hour. Of course, it's taking me a little long on this video because it's a tutorial and I gotta explain things, but you guys get the idea. With practice, and by using a few extra, just different ways of doing things that I've come up with myself, and those hair clips, it just has improved my accuracy and therefore how fast I can do this, because if you're not making mistakes, you get it done a lot faster. You can't make this up, guys. I think I just did it again. So I gotta pull that out and do it again. I went through the thread again, even after I told you I use this big needle, because it almost never happens. That's so crazy. So yeah, this used to be a mistake that I used to make all the time, and now I don't, but for some reason tonight, that's like all I'm doing. Where's the center? There it is. Okay. So you always know you've done it if you can't pull on one of the sides. If one of the sides, if this is loose in the middle, you make that loose, that's how you even things up. And you're pulling, and then suddenly one side doesn't pull, that's how you know you went through the thread somewhere. Okay. Tight. Loosen and tie. And there, it's done. Isn't that just gorgeous? I love seeing a journal after I've tied in all the signatures. And then we can tie the closure and enjoy its beautifulness. All that is left now is whatever you decide to do for your tassel, and then you go through and decorate those pages. So as you can see here, everything's lined up very nicely. The exception of a little bit of grunge that I purposely left a little low. You can see how nice and straight that is by always going to the bottom. Bottom of the cover, bottom of the signatures. So flat. Which then lets your journal stand. Even a soft cover, very flexible journal can stand perfectly. And I really like the exposed spine. I feel like that adds a lot to the cover's details. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment below if this actually helped at all, and maybe that'll encourage me to do more tutorials and other things. And if there is something that I do that you guys don't normally see done on YouTube that you would like a tutorial on, feel free to ask in the comments if I'll do a tutorial on something like that. I don't do a lot of tutorials because so many people out there already have done lots and lots of tutorials on how to make junk journals. Like, every part of it has already been done over and over and over again. And that's not my thing. I just like to create. Doing tutorials takes a lot of time, which means less time for me to create. So if there's something that you guys see in my journals or see me do that you haven't seen all over YouTube, feel free to just ask about it. Alright, thank you guys. Have a great day. Bye.